After the first day, the Confederates had seized the town of Gettysburg, but the heights at Cemetery Ridge and Cemetery Hill were held by the Union forces. Shortly after dusk, General Meade came up and took command of the field, and General Hancock retained command of the Second Corps. The Second Corps, under General Hancock, was posted right in the center of the line. And if you look at the fabled line of Gettysburg, Battle of Gettysburg, the Union line was in the shape of a fishhook, which is the classic example. Union forces occupied Culp's Hill and came all the way down to the Round Tops, which hadn't yet be occupied. And General Meade, again, trusting his commander, put the Second Corps under Hancock right in the center of that line, knowing that that was a critical point in holding the line, and he trusted the Second Corps under General Hancock to do just that. And early on in the battle, the Union forces were holding the high ground. They wanted to make sure that they were holding this and keeping the Confederates out. And General Lee, under the Army of Northern Virginia, obviously wanted to dislodge them from this high ground. And so General Lee initiated a series of attacks later in the day on both wings of the Union Army. And initially, General Hancock was not engaged. However, very early on in the battle, as the day progressed in day 2, it became clear that the Second Corps had to engage to assist the wings of the Army under attack by General Longstreet at the Round Tops. And specifically as well, General Sickles, who's command of the Third Corps, was directly to the left of General Hancock's. And in a controversial and probably more long-winded story, he essentially moved out of his position without orders and came under heavy assault by Longstreet's attack. And General Hancock immediately had to send reinforcements. He directed several divisions to contain the threat, try to stabilize the line. General Sickles' corps was badly mauled, and General Hancock helped to ease that burden from General Sickles. And the attack continued all the way up to the Round Tops, and reinforcements kept coming in throughout the day. And General Hancock sort of was constantly directing his troops to where they needed, and he helped stabilize that center threat. And as the day continued to progress, the center line also came under threats, and the right wing of the line. And again, General Hancock was really critical here. And as Cemetery Hill became under attack, and the ridge itself, he sent out units that he knew were going to get slaughtered to help delay the line so the line could be stabilized as more reinforcements came up. And that's really the hardest part of any commander, is sending units that you know are going to their doom and to the greater cause of saving the battle. And many times he did this to help contain the line, to buy time for reinforcements to come in. And again, he was constantly sending divisions and units to other sectors of the field that were under threats, oftentimes without orders, realizing that you couldn't wait for the chain of command. Sometimes you had to act, which was really important the second day, trying to contain both wings of the line that were under attack. And the line held. Now, General Sickles' line did fall back to the heights, but the line largely held. And even as the night started to fall and the general assault started to fade, there was still an attack on the right side on Culp's Hill. And again, General Hancock, recognizing this threat, he sent one of his better units under the Philadelphia Brigade to go and contain the threat, helping out the 12th Corps on the Culp's Hill battle. Again, without orders, understanding that there was, time was critical. And he stabilized that line as well. And again, the second day was really, really critical to help keep this line intact. And General Hancock, again, largely seen as, he was plugging in forces as he saw fit, and, again, credibly, holding that line together on all sides of it. So General Hancock has played already a significant role in the first 2 days. Just a quick recap. First day, without any direct control, the Second Corps was sent to survey and hold the battlefield under orders from General Meade, which he did. The second day, despite his line not being directly assaulted at first, was a source of reinforcements and holding the line on the second day. Now the third day, General Meade kind of realized what was happening. General Lee had attacked both sides of the Union line on the second day, and he anticipated a possible frontal assault again. Obviously, he couldn't, pull all of his forces and do that, but again, he trusted his Second Corps under General Hancock to hold that center line. And, again, so had so much faith going into this battle with General Hancock at that center point. And as the day progressed, and again, the Confederates kind of, were the morning lull. There was a little brief fighting on Culp's Hill in the morning, separate of General Hancock, but again, there was kind of a lull. And as the Confederates prepared for their now infamous Pickett's Charge, there was a massive cannonade from the Confederates. And it went on, just a bombardment right targeting the Second Corps at that center line, trying to dislodge the defenders there, trying to dislodge the artillery pieces and the infantry dug in along these stone walls that were protecting this area. And of course, General Hancock was not going to be moved by some artillery. And throughout this cannonade was on his horse, just keeping the troops, morale up. And despite attempts by his aides saying, get off the horse, you're going to get injured, he's like, there's a time a course commander does not count. And it was so important because, again, you're trying to keep your troops from fleeing. Just these massive cannonade, there's an infantry attack coming right after this artillery fire stops, and he's doing his best to keep his troops' morale up, knowing that the most critical point of the battle is about to occur. And, again, it was so important, risking his life, keeping the troops' morale up, knowing that this massive charge is about to come across the fields at his Second Corps. And of course, that's exactly what happens. The artillery ceases, and General Longstreet, with about 15,000 men, launches, which is now, of course, called Pickett's Charge, across the fields, directed all at where General Hancock's forces are, defending the line. And again, General Hancock is riding his horse, keeping his troops' spirits alive. The artillery from the Union side is constantly, of course, withering down on the Confederates advancing. But that's not going to stop them. And the Confederates come in and, of course, hit the Union line at these stone walls. And General Hancock's forces, of course, do not break. There's a fierce fight at this, at this central point of the battle, which is now known as the Angle, and again, which later referred to as the high watermark of the Confederacy. And General Hancock's forces, and again, was constantly receiving reinforcements. Obviously, as General Meade saw all this happening, was directing more forces to plug the gap. And General Hancock was eventually wounded. And, even in his wounding, a general is shot, he's bleeding, and even at that point, the general is insistent. He stays on the battle until the battle is decided. He does not want to leave his men at this critical point, because you never know in a battle. And General Hancock has seen this in all the battles he's been in, including, he fought at the Battle of Chancellorsville and Antietam, and he has seen this firsthand, where even the smallest of changes can force retreat and demoralize the troops. So he insists on staying on the battle, despite, again, his aides pleading with him to go see a doctor to make sure he's going to survive. And he insists until the battle's decided that he will not be removed from the field. And of course, the Union forces are able to contain this charge and bloodily repulse the Confederates back across the field with about 50% losses. The Second Corps was critical in holding this line back under the stewardship of General Hancock. And the wound was very serious, and eventually, of course, he did get that treated, and he did survive the war. But he was critical in maintaining the spirits of the troops at the most critical moment at the Battle of Gettysburg. And it's widely seen, if anyone else had been there, he could have, left at a certain point, not been on his horse, and of course that's speculation. But we know General Hancock, what he did was so important to keep the morale of his troops high on that day, and, was super critical at this super critical moment, was there even injured to keep his spirits alive. And, again, this is a perfect encapsulation of General Hancock's third day, wounded, still there, and, he was present all 3 days, and he would not be removed until it was done. And Congress would recognize this. After the war, they would award him an honor, realizing his special contribution to this battle and understanding what he did to make sure the Confederates lost this battle and ultimately lost the war.
So after General Hancock was wounded on the third day of the Battle of Gettysburg, initially doctors were able to remove some wood and nail which had been lodged into the wound in his upper thigh near the groin region where the bullet had entered. The bullet had gone through his saddle and into his upper thigh, and initially doctors couldn't locate the bullet. They couldn't remove it from his body, so they sent him home to Norristown to recover. By the time of late August of that year, 1863, the wound still had not healed. Several doctors had tried to locate the bullet and just simply couldn't find it. And given how bad the wound was festering, there was a lot of concern that the general was going to die from his injury. So another Montgomery County native by the name of Dr. Lewis Reed, who was at that point a surgeon in the Union Army, he was asked to go to Norristown to see if he could save Hancock's life. And Dr. Reed got this idea that, well, he was sitting in his saddle riding his horse at the time of the injury. Maybe if we position him in such a way that mimics how he was sitting while he was injured, we'll be able to remove the bullet. Now, historians aren't exactly sure how he did this. There's a couple of different theories, but it is confirmed that he did manage to get Hancock sitting in such a way that it was closely resembling him riding his horse, and that allowed Dr. Reed to very easily find the bullet and remove it, saving Hancock's life. The wound did heal, and General Hancock was able to go back to serving the Union Army and continued his career in the military after that.